It's so funny that episode 5 of Summertime Rendering really feels like we've already seen the last boss. I mean, there's Mother. She's right there. And like I said, it's almost like it has revealed all of its cards, but at the same time, I'm sure this writer knows what they're doing. Like, I have full confidence based on the first 5 episodes, this writer knows what they're doing, that they're not revealing too much, that there's still plenty down the road to get into. But yeah, this is pretty much the build-up point. This is the point where I'm going to start getting frustrated if Shinpei doesn't do certain things. I mean, I'm already doing it. Like, this little brief time that we get of the next reset, I'm already going, why haven't you not gone and seen the author yet? Like, that would have been the first thing I would do. Like, sorry, Mio, gotta go. I mean, I'm already on board. I'm already going to points already. But like I said, in the last episode impressions, I think this point forward, Shinpei really needs to be careful about running into shadows. Because, again, the moment that he gets hit with one of those flashes, he's lost. I think that's the losing point. Every reset from this point on is going to be, if he gets flashed, it's done. Like, it's done at that point. He has revealed all of his cards, his power, and yes, all the failures the shadows have done, he's going to reveal to them. Now, granted, every single reset, he technically loses, but it's enough for them to know exactly what all he knows, and they can prepare for it. Yeah, opening up this episode, we finally get to meet the chested lady, which I've been calling Minakata, which apparently her actual name that she uses to Shinpei is Ryunosuke, which is the author of Swamp Man, the novel that he was talking about in the second episode. This novel that essentially copies or has the same concept as the story that we're kind of telling here, this idea of doppelgangers. So he immediately gravitates to that. She's very weird. She's talking about this food that she's only been here one time before. She was too young and she couldn't eat this one food. A very weird person, but that's kind of her quirk, apparently. But she surprises Mio in the idea that she's able to dodge Mio's attacks, even though, as we kind of expected with Shinpei, she's very fast. And, at the same time, is able to kill, or at least what we assume, kill the Shadow Mio, which is by attacking her shadow. And this gets into this long explanation of everything that she seems to know about the shadows, and it seems to be based on a theory about her sister. She keeps talking about her sister. Now that makes me believe that she might not be the author of Swamp Man, which is, again, pretty much telling what these are through fiction. So this idea that this book about Swamp Man might not be so fake. It might actually be a real story that she told. But again, I'm wondering if possibly it's her sister that's the author and not her, because she keeps calling to her sister that, you know, her sister had this theory, and can he really save her buddy's sister? It seems like her sister has told her something that led her to this position. But anyways, Ushio runs by and she's able to identify that she is a shadow. And he's like, well, you can tell what shadows are? And she says, yes. And this is a cool thing. This is actually a really cool concept. This idea that the shadows are what they are. The thing that they become, the thing they copy, is just a clump of flesh. It's not actually what they are. The shadow is what they are. So she says in her theory is that they hate being stepped on, which I thought I was going to get this whole thing where every time they step on the ground, you can see the shadow like move or something. But she mentions the idea that every time you can step on them, they'll avoid you. In a lot of cases, maybe it's not always, but they might, you know, just instinctively move. But I thought that was a cool idea that we'll probably have some point in which, you know, Shinpei is going to be looking at the ground and going, should I? Like, you're going to have to do it without even... And that's the troubling thing, is, like, that's not even a true sign either, because he could step on a shadow, but the shadow will let him because it wants to cover up and may know that he knows. So, very interesting idea is to have this idea that the shadows themselves will instinctively kind of move, and so it's a good way of finding out. So, we'll see if that gets used. It's obviously going to get used in the future. She already confirms the fact that they use light to basically absorb information. So again, getting a snapshot of somebody's information. Also that they like to consume this data, and they do it by consuming the entirety of them. That's what happens when they turn to what looks like ash as they're consuming them. And that she's noting that they're growing really quickly. No matter how many she kills, they're growing fast, which again is indication to Shinpei, well, it's because there's something going on right now. They're talking about mothers coming back and they got to get ready. So they rush up there, and again, that's when she says, can he really save everybody, sis? Again, I'm kind of alluding that there's probably some sort of connection with some sort of sister that Ryunosuke actually knows. But yeah, they get up to the festival. And here's one thing that I noticed right off the bat. So right when he gets up there, Tokiko is there. And this is the whole This is the ongoing joke around a lot of anime and how it's portrayed, is that for some reason when he's up there and everything's in front of him, there's a big pillar of corpses and there's a big shadow guy, and over here you have So's shadow is chopping up. So he only could see this one person in front of him. I know it's cool theatrics, but at the same time, it's like whenever it finally drops the curtain, it's like, why couldn't you see all that? Like, all they can see right now is Tokiko, even though there's a big mound of bodies behind her. All they can see is her. Anyways, that aside, it's just one of those little goofy side things that I always get upset about. But Tokiko says something very interesting. She turns to him and says, "This isn't why I dirtied my hands," and then she's killed. This leads me to believe that Tokiko could have been a shadow, but I don't know that it is the case. I don't know this other bigger shadow would stab her in the head to kill her if it was a shadow. But it's just a very weird statement. This isn't why I dirtied my hands. Now, the only thing I can think of is maybe if we ever get a snapshot of what happened right there, leading up to him getting there, if she possibly went out of her way to attack somebody that she thought was a threat and possibly harm them, and so she thought she could do that to help people, but then she failed. Like, the moment that Shinpei revealed that he's grabbing Mio and that he's the danger guy, that maybe she, knowing there were shadows or knowing that they were a threat, that Mio was saying they were a threat, she rushed up there and attacked, and it was all for nothing. Like, she dirtied her hands by killing them, and it was all for nothing. Like, it didn't do anything. But it's just a really weird statement, honestly. But like I said, it kind of leads me to believe that Tokiko is going to be involved in some different way. Or possibly the moment that maybe So became a clone or whatever, she possibly was manipulated by what he told her to do. It could be something else. But yeah, this leads to the big shadow, says it's the hour 9, feast upon this thing, mother's appearing, all that kind of stuff. At some point, we see So is going to basically hack at Mio after taking out the real So, and that's when Ryunosuke shoots, and the big shadow thing doesn't create a copy of her, but does create like another torso of himself that is in the form of her with a gun that does shoot back at her, which we do find at this point how she was able to avoid Mio previously is that she's some sort of precog. Like, she has some sort of ability to see a few seconds in the future. So she sees the shot goes off, then she's able to react to it afterwards. So interesting. We're getting in some interesting powers that people might have. I mean, obviously we already have Shinpei has a power, so why not have other people have some sort of powers? But yeah, I thought it was kind of funny to have like the shadow So is like super mad at Mio. Like, despite the fact that he becomes the shadow, the snapshot that he got of So is so fueled with this jealousy that the shadow gets it. So he goes and attacks Mio, and apparently So protected her. And so he's going, all you say is Shinpei, 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 and yet you're here defending her. Like, the shadow doesn't understand it. Like, why are you protecting her when all she talks about is Shin? It doesn't make any sense to him. But again, it's that whole funny thing that despite the fact that them taking a snapshot of something and cloning it, and yes, absorbing all the information, sometimes that information will take them over, which again goes back to my theory that Ushio is a product of is an oddity because she's probably too pure. Like, she doesn't have something to manipulate. In my whole theory of the idea that these shadows maybe feel off to something like that, and they don't have a jealousy or an anger to feel off of with Ushio because she might be too pure or something. But yeah, that's when the big, huge shadow grabs Shinpei, and yes, we finally pretty much just divulge everything about the eye. Yes, the eye apparently is an eye that was lost by Mother a while back, and it has the power to control time, and yeah, that's pretty much out there. Now we have that pretty much revealed. But at the same time, he starts to get very cryptic, very, very cryptic at this point, talking about, well, okay, so if a hero can keep resetting time every time he fails to the Demon Lord, eventually the Demon Lord will have to stop it. And the only way that the Demon Lord is going to be able to stop it is if he turns off the game. And what happens when a Demon Lord gets a sense of the 3D realities and the concepts of the electrical power that's powering it? Again, I guess, I mean, he says at some point that he's going to do just that. He's going to cut the power. It seems very weird. It's like this idea that he's talking about, okay, well, if you're this protagonist in this game and you just keep resetting the game, eventually I'm going to have to go outside of those bounds and cut the cord. Like I guess this giving a sense that reality that we are in is in a sandbox, and all this creature has to do is essentially go outside of that sandbox and erase it all. He does talk about this is the moment of the reckoning, the point in which everything will be absorbed into nothingness. So it almost gives a sense that this is a reality that we are in, and he's just going to essentially erase it. So it's interesting. It's an interesting concept. It's a little geeky, but at the same time, you're talking about a lot of shadows that are essentially absorbing the minds of people. You might get a little bit JRPG video game tropes in his mind as well. Yes, we have the long, drawn-out, painful shot of Shinpei wrapped up trying to reach out to Mio, Mio reaching out to Shinpei, and then screaming, and then poof. Everybody starts poofing. It starts absorbing the shadow. Everything it touches is just absorbing it. It's consuming the entire island itself. Next interesting part is at the clinic. We have a guy named Hishigata at the Hishigata clinic. Now, Hishigata is staying there looking out upon this red light that the mother is kind of consumed in, and the shadow's kind of absorbing the island itself. He pretty much points it out. He knows, it seems like he knows what's going on. He's like, this, after consuming 1,000 humans, she's finally recovered. And look, the entire place is being consumed. The interesting thing was behind him, in the wheelchair, there's a shadow sitting there. Now, it doesn't have a form. Now, this is the thing I'm going to keep an eye on. I don't think, I kind of wanted to go back into the previous episodes to see if I could see Hishigata. I don't think I've seen him before, this doctor. But I can't say going forward, if I see somebody in a wheelchair, I'm going to think that's probably a shadow. Now, the weird thing is, it seems like the shadow is sitting there, just kind of chilling. So it almost indicates that maybe this Hishigata knows about the shadows, maybe knows how to manipulate them. But my mind immediately went to, and this is a theory that I'll have going forward, that there's a possibility that if he's a part of the clinic, was he the clinic that performed the autopsy for Ushio? And if he did, was he able to manipulate the shadow at that point and thus make her good? Maybe Hishigata will be the key to why the Ushio shadow is a good thing, because again, behind him in a wheelchair seems to be a not violent shadow. But we'll see. My other theory right now that I'm running with is that on the day of the 22nd, the point in which Shinpei is returning to currently, apparently Ushio washed up to shore at that point. So it kind of indicates this idea of playing off of that previous talk about this god of this island that they do this ritual for this festival is possibly the deity washing ashore, not all these other shadows, just her maybe, that she is the good person, that she is this deity that they'll eventually have to go to. But again, this episode sort of played off the actual concept of this festival, but using the people instead. The people washed ashore, and they were all in this pile, and they were burned up into the mother. They were sent off to the deity, which is this mother. But I'm throwing a bunch out. Sorry, hold on. I think he called the mother Haine, unless he was talking about the wheelchair. But yeah, this kind of whole thing wraps up with Ryunosuke apologizing to Shinpei for not believing him before, his message before, which this was curious because I don't think he ever got a hold of Ryunosuke. He did try to find her, but he wasn't able to find her. I don't think he ever gave her any sort of message. So this right here is indicating that we might have some sort of thing where Shinpei will be able to go back further and leave a message for Ryunosuke. That there's a possibility that he, at some point, will be able to go back further and leave notes to people. Like, is there a possibility that he might warn Ushio? Ushio might give the phone to Tetsu because she knows, based on what Shinpei tells her back here, that she needs to do that. That, yes, with Ryunosuke, he'll leave a message or he'll send a mail to her that she will receive and not really think anything of it. She already knows his name, and so that might become with whatever message he sends her that is possibly from the future that goes back further. By the way, he's like, I'm not done yet. He's so mad because of what happened to Mio. He says, finish me, Ryunosuke, shoot. And yeah, we pretty much have our first real ReZero moment here that he chooses the reset. And again, technically Higurashi, when they cry, they had moments like that too. But she does say your name and I will save you, which again, it frustrates me because he didn't immediately go to see her. But yeah, really crazy. And yeah, when he resets Ushio, he makes eye contact with Mother, which is probably not a good thing, and gets to talk with Ushio again. He's able to understand her this time, where she's saying that your power has limits, which we pretty much already kind of deduced because he's going back less time than before. His reset time's coming up slower. Now, he's jumping to the conclusion that I would jump to, and what Ushio's jumping to is that his power will get weaker as he goes along, and that time that he's able to go back gets shorter. But it also leaves open that there's a possibility it might be just based on how far he gets ahead, that it doesn't go back as far. Which, yeah, he could test. Like, well, let's try to end myself right now. That way I can see if I can go back further. But I don't think that's what they're indicating at all. And it doesn't seem like he's jumping to that conclusion. And I wouldn't really jump to that conclusion. I mean, I'd probably just leave it up to, if I fail a little bit earlier, I'll take note. But ending it now to reset once more is a possibility you're going to use up what remaining time you have left. Like, you have to use every reset to the fullest, which is nice. The author is already thinking about the fact that he doesn't want to make it into a cheese ball. Doesn't want to turn into a montage of him getting clack, 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 which is great. We don't need a dying montage like other shows did. But at any rate, that's a crazy episode. Really looking forward to more of it. Oh, I did get a kick out of Ushio. Drop kick in the shadow. Like, she's like, and this is a really cool thing. I do like this idea that Ushio is so mentally conflicted. Like, she's like, I am a human. I'm not like you guys. And they're like, humans can't fix their arm like you just did. You're a shadow. No, I'm not. And she's still conflicted. She's upset about this. No, my arm's fixed, but I'm not. I'm human. And then even when she gets absorbed, everybody else kind of turns to a shadow form before they're absorbed in. She's absorbed as her form. Like, she doesn't even give up her human form. And even when she busts out of the shadow to dropkick this thing, she still retains her form. It's a very curious thing. And I'm really curious. Again, I kind of link it back to this whole thing with Hishigata, this clinic. I'm wondering if he possibly knows how to manipulate these shadows to make them more accepting of humans. Maybe tweak that part. Maybe take some forceps, cut, bring out that part that is the shadow. Or maybe sever it from the shadow itself. That's a curious thing. Like with what Ryunosuke said, they are a clump of flesh and their shadow is attached to it. That's their actual form. So, again, stepping on it makes him dodge, whatever. But there's a possibility, and Shinpei could test this. If he sees Ushio again, he can try to interact with the shadow. She possibly doesn't have a shadow form like everybody else. She might just have a normal casting shadow, and then actual form of a shadow might not even exist. So I'll be curious about that. Maybe it's all about severing the actual shadow from the clump of flesh. But anyways, that's my thoughts on episode 5 of Summertime Rendering. Definitely still enjoying it. I hope you guys are enjoying it as well. If you like this video, make sure to hit that like button down below. Comment, let me know what you thought of the episode. If you have not already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Share this video if you can. Definitely, if you know any groups of people that are watching Summertime Rendering, definitely share out this video. It supports us more than anything else, helping other people find us. I definitely appreciate it. Additionally, if you want to support us more, we have a Patreon link and tips link in the description below. We definitely appreciate everybody that supports us, and y'all take care. I've been naming her wrong because I just went by the first name